Good morning. It's Friday, March the 11th, 2022, and I want to welcome you to Shortcuts for Your Soul Friday edition. Today I have with me the energy of Master Buddha, and it's how to cultivate peace in your mind. One of the consensus points I'm getting from a lot of these ascended masters right now is the problem that we face as a species is not because of our politics. It's not because of disease. It's not because of evil people. It's not because of animals or forests or deforestation. The single greatest problem facing humanity today is we do not yet fully understand how to run our mind, either individually and more so collectively. The understanding that your awareness has the capability of doing pretty remarkable changes in the experience of being. Can only be discovered through the process of liberating yourself from your mind. And your mind is not the thoughts that are going on that you are aware of. Your mind is the awareness that you are, and where you place that awareness becomes a function of creation. Where you place your awareness becomes a function of creation. And yet so few of you understand this simplicity, that a state of peace is your natural state of being. However, you remain distracted by your senses and you remain confused by a lot of the information that runs around stimulating you to one idea or another. The reason for considering this ideation today is that in restoring your mind to the state that you exist in, rather than your awareness being ensnared by the collage of uncontrollable thoughts and emotions that are bombarding your senses, and for many of you, running on incessantly in the confines of your privacy, the place where your most sacred place is within you, that place where you think that thought and emotion are beyond the scope of your ability to alter or control them. Very few of you understand this. This need for peace is not something you gain as a function by asserting authority and control over others. You gain a function of peace by the simple act of taking your attention away from your thoughts and your emotions. This does not mean that you do not have the capability to feel or experience quite the opposite. When your mind and your attention are pulled away from the distractions of the senses and the ungoverned flow of information without reason, when your attention is pulled away from that, there is a sensation of your being that must be experienced to be understood. Now, you were born in that experience. You were born in this vibration of love. You were born in this vibration of peace, where there was no incessant thought from the moment you were born into that body. There was no incessant thought in your mind. There was no unregulated emotions through your body. They came later as you acquired thought from others. Some of it rational thought, perhaps, but most of it irrational thought, based on irrational fears, connected strictly to the survival impetus of your body. And as a result, you find yourself in chaos in your own mind, so that even when you lay your body down to sleep at night, there is chaos. There is no peace. You come to this world to experience change, to be an agent of change. But you live in peace in your own consciousness, or you ought to live in peace. My reason for coming today is to simply help you to recognize there are simple ways of beginning to restore yourself to peace. Thoughts, any thoughts in your mind, are a distraction. If you want to understand the true nature of your being, any thought is a distraction. Without thought, there is increased awareness. There is increased awareness without thought. Thought will localize your awareness to finite conceptions of existence, which diminish and limit the full capacity of your nature to be creative in its most effective sense. But first step to restoring yourself to your true nature is to pull your attention away from thought, away from emotion. Your thought and your emotion are simply the substance that you have been given over time while experiencing the information coming to you through this physical world. If you come to the understanding that you can actually choose not to pay attention to a certain thought in your mind, if it comes to your understanding that you do not need to pay attention to any thought that comes to your mind, you will begin to recognize once again the authority of your being, the authority of your attention, the authority of your soul to place its focus anywhere. And in so doing, you offer your energy then to where it is you place your focus. Imagine simply being able to not have thoughts in your mind, to deliberately and intentionally say, I will not pay attention to these thoughts that are apparent to my awareness. I can observe this thought of this thing or that place or that person. I don't have to have that in my mind right now. I can take my awareness away from thought. It does not mean that you will not be aware there is thought, but you will simply not be captivated by it. You will be aware that it is there, but you will recognize that it is just a thought. It is not who you are any more than the emotions that you feel are who you are. The emotions that you feel are simply the effects of vibrational components of thought that organize the experience of matter, time, and space into very precise configurations of experience. If you are going to restore yourself to peace, in that place you can begin to rebuild your mind into a more favorable function for yourself than living with the mind that has been built on your behalf by the environment that has led to great confusion socially and politically on this planet today. And how then do you begin to surrender those thoughts? Simply pull your attention away from them. The functionality you have over your mind and body is absolute. The authority you have is absolute when you recognize that it is. That a thought comes to your mind, you do not have to pay attention to it. You do not have to pay attention to any thought. Thought is not the same as thinking. Thinking is very different than thought. Very few of you understand the concept of thinking, which does not require thought in the form of what you remember, but thought in the knowing of what is now and how you as awareness apprehend and comprehend the experience of this moment and what relevant creative ideas will provide you with the impetus to create dynamic and exciting change. If you understand that you can pull your attention away from thought, you could pull it away to, say, your heartbeat. You could pull your attention, say, away to silence. Have you ever considered contemplating silence? Just considering the sound of silence, nothing else. And to keep your attention on that function of yourself, giving attention only to silence. That simple act would cause a great change in how humans function. How you say and how you do would be affected significantly if you could simply keep your attention on silence. And silence does not mean that you do not hear. It simply means you are not disturbed or distracted by what you are observing from the perspective of your awareness. The sound of the horn of the vehicle a few moments ago was obvious, a sound that I am aware of, but it is not something that distracted me. Simply, I recognize its presence, but I remain undistracted by it. So too, memory has a similar function. You may be aware of memory and remain unaffected by memory. Many of you have memory but remain very affected by memory, and many of you cannot get past memory to even begin to understand the experience of being at peace with yourself, because your mind is so busy with what was before or what may come as a result of what was before. But this is unnecessary in the context of understanding the nature of your consciousness as an instrument of love and peace. The moment peace is restored, free will is available. The moment you restore peace to your mind, your free will is available, where you can place your attention on any thing, thought, or act, and the very nature of your attention becomes a creative influence over thought, action, and emotion. Then you give rise to very specific expressions of energy. To cultivate peace through the act of contemplating silence, giving attention to silence, will not diminish you at all. It will do the opposite, for silence is limitless. Silence is limitless. If you relinquish your pain and your suffering and your anger and your fear from your mind, and there is silence, you will not feel crowded. You will feel quite free. It is when your attentions are collapsed upon a finite conception of reality that you find yourself distracted. In a place of silence, in a place where you are undistracted, your awareness will be enhanced, expanded, and increased. Free will becomes available in that you can choose to consciously give your attention to one thing, thought, or action or another by an act of free will, as opposed to an action of awareness entrapped by certain beliefs and ideologies, and therefore bound to think and act in very specific ways according to those. To be able to step outside of any belief or ideology that you hold liberates you to examine objectively the information and the ideas that are being presented to you, but only from the function of self-awareness, independent of your subjectivity to thoughts previously acquired and emotions that are generated by those thoughts. Only from that place of observational awareness do you actually have the function of free will. And there are so few of you on the planet that actually have a function of free will. You find yourself eating and sleeping and drinking at the whims of information you're being stimulated to perceive with your senses. Many of you do not even understand or recognize why you are eating or sleeping or drinking the way you are, let alone question that, or its validity, or its function or effect upon your body. The process of activating peace and cultivating it so that it works for you is fairly simple. Contemplate silence. Contemplate silence. Even the silence between objects of perception. For example, you hear a car outside and you hear another car outside. Contemplate the silent space between those two things. In that process of examining the silence between sounds and objects, contemplating the space, the soundless state between things, begins a process of liberating your awareness from attachment to the specifics of thought or events in time and space. You now move into a place of observational and creative awareness. And only from this perspective can you begin to select and choose what it is you will fill your mind and your world with. Many of you cannot do this, choosing rather to govern yourself exclusively by the experience of your senses. What smells good or feels good or tastes good can be wonderful and delightful, but when it causes you to do harm to the body for the sake of a single taste or a single smell or a single sensation, then you are not free. You are simply enslaved to the senses. Cultivating peace enables you to function very differently in thought. You have choice in awareness. You do not have choice when you are already in thought, when you're in a belief about something, when you're in an established ideology. You do not have freedom of thought. You have the thought of the ideology. So many of you seek to utilize pills and drugs to find a way to liberate yourself from your own minds, the very mind that you should have absolute authority and dominion over, and you think you need to club it into submission with drugs, and you think you need to eat certain things to taste it into oblivion, and that does not work. Yet the simple willingness to extract your awareness from the confines of your mind. Pull your awareness away from your thoughts. Simply be aware that there are thoughts, but do not find yourself rushing to that thought or rushing to that memory or wondering about that future. Do not let your awareness jump in bed so quickly with certain ideas and thoughts. Let yourself stay back, be observational in awareness. If you elect to do this on a regular basis where you realize these are thoughts that are in my head, but they're not who I am. Those are things I'm perceiving, but they're not who I am. This cultivation of peace, when it becomes experiential, when it's not simply a concept that we are saying to you, and you begin to actually experience that you can turn thought off, that it does not have to be smothering you, that you can turn certain qualities of emotion into silence and be still. You begin to discover the true meaning of your nature as a creative intelligence. Only without the prejudice of thought can you truly know what is in alignment with who you are. Only without the prejudice of your thought, and so many of you have been prejudiced by the thoughts that have been given to you by your environment, well-meaning as some of them may have been, the teachers, the parents, as well-meaning as some of them may have been. They've given you thoughts, they've given you prejudice, and we're not referring to the prejudice of race or creed or gender. We're referring to the prejudice that an idea in your mind predisposes you to see the world in a specific way without you having any opportunity to consider other possibilities besides that thought. So be willing to release your thought to silence, to come into a conscious alignment of what thought is in alignment with you, what actions are representative of you, because you cannot know these things from a place of prejudice. where your thoughts and your memories and your emotion act as a veil filtering what you perceive. So you actually do not perceive what you are looking at. You're only perceiving what you're looking at, not what is beyond it. To come to this place where you can cultivate silence. Even the sound of the vehicles outside, they're there. They do not distract us, but they are there. Your awareness will grow in capability. Your creative potential will expand as you liberate yourself from the prejudices of your mind. And this has, again, nothing to do with race or color or religion or ideology. This has to do with an understanding that who you are is a consciousness that's separate, unique, and distinct from everything that you know, but which is free to utilize any information that you know in the process of creation, of learning to effect acts of creation while in this experience of a material world. Imagine that you can effect creation in this world with your consciousness, with thought, and with action. You are affecting creation. That body cannot function nor act without your agreement to it, unless, of course, you surrender your mind and body to the direction of others, which many of you have done. To cultivate peace begins with silence, to begin to consider silence. You want to first find peace rather than trying to overcome your enemies in this world. Why don't you cultivate peace within yourself so you can begin to see and know what is true for you, what is not true for you. You cannot find peace in a conflicted mind. That will never happen. But you can find peace by taking your attention away from your conflicted mind. You can do this. You do not need a pill nor a drug to take your attention away from thought, unless, of course, you're choosing to be governed by something outside of yourself. That substance of this world is no substitute for the function of your soul. The function of your soul is absolute when it is conscious and aware. Move your attention away from what you know. Develop the strength of silence in your field of attention. Develop your strength in a field of silence. You can sit and be aware there are sounds, there are objects all around you, and be undistracted by none. Do this. Just observe. And observe that you observe. I observe thought. I observe memory. I observe emotion. But I observe them. And from this perspective of observation, you begin to extricate yourself from the prejudices of your mind. And it is only from that place of extracting yourself from the prejudices of your mind that you can begin to create an unprejudiced and unbiased expression of your being, one that is in harmony with who you are. That doesn't mean that you will not have certain considerations of what is good and what is not good, what is right and what is not right. You will gain that function, but only from a place of truth. And that place of truth cannot be found in the prejudices of your mind, but in the space of peace in your consciousness, that you will begin to understand, this food is right for me, this food is not right for me, this thought is good for me, this thought is not good for me. Only from the place of a liberated awareness can you begin to cultivate true and lasting peace in your life. Only from that place. And it takes effort, and it takes time, and it takes perseverance, but not as much as you may have been led to believe. In a single instance of observing silence, you can find your liberation. Simply the consideration of listening to silence can open the door to your complete and total liberation from thought, memory, and emotion. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to contemplate silence? The silence between sounds, the space between objects. If you spend a few minutes there and can tolerate standing separate from the irritants of your mind, take your attention away from the distractions of your thought and be in silence. And if that thought tries to capture your attention, simply return to silence. Return to that place of silence. Begin to find the liberation of your soul again. It is possible to live in silence and to still be an equal and active participant in a creative process. You can't be in this world and not be part of causing effects. It is impossible. Even that person that you would call non-contributing in society that lies on the street sleeping with the bottle in their hand, they're having a causative effect on space-time around them. Even in the act of choosing to not exist, you cannot ignore the fact that you will influence and cause effects in this experience of time and space that you currently exist in through that body that you find yourself perceiving these words through. So there is none of us that can escape the process of creation as long as we are conscious. And you can choose to be conscious now. Consider this silence very carefully. Consider silence. And in your consideration of that silence, you will begin to become silent. You'll become freed from thought, freed from memory, freed from the angst of the future based on your memories. Imagine what real freedom is as an experience of your being, not something that is afforded to you by another person, an object, a place, a space, but that experience of being in peace is natural to who each and every one of you truly is. And it is only from that place of peace where the function of reason can begin to emerge, where your function of reason can begin to emerge. Reason cannot function when subjective to one thought or another. Reason only functions from the perspective of awareness. And in the state of being aware, one can reason upon or evaluate the meaning of ideas and information, but not from within the experience of that ideation and information can one reason. Reason requires that you are able to be independent, cognizant, and aware of certain thoughts. And that by organizing certain thoughts, you create very specific functions of action for that body. But it all begins first to awaken peace. To awaken peace by aligning your awareness to silence. And in silence, the gain of function of reason becomes possible. As I observe many of you running around in your minds, trying to figure out things from your thoughts that you already have, being very confused and uncertain and not knowing how to deal with these thoughts, and finding someone or something that will maybe control your thoughts for you, and you find yourself confused in those thoughts, and it's very difficult. I understand this very well. That the moment you release that, turn your attention to silence, the fear and the stress are no longer yours. And in a fearless state, you will find peace. In a fearless state, you will find love. In a fearless state, you will find actions that uplift and assert the expression of your soul in a most meaningful way. Wow, thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Question from, Question from Marjorie. Could I get clarity on the dream I had last night. If you understand the nature of what has been said to you today, then the nature and function of that information will take on a new light. From the place of peace, the meaning of things is very different than the place of subjectivity to information of experience. In other words, becoming aware of how you observe and reason upon things from within information is very different to the conclusions that you will come to examining that information from the perspective of objective awareness. Quite simply, what is your awareness from the perspective of observation, the memory of the dream, observing the memory? How does the memory affect you from a place of peace? The information you can understand and comprehend from a place of observation of the dream will reveal its meaning, its very powerful meaning for you. If you're able to distract your attention away from being subjective to the acquired meanings that you have about the information contained within that dream. Wow. Question from Sonny. My 3-year-old son keeps getting a high fever ever since he started nursery school. Can Archangel Raphael advise me? Yes. Yes. With this one, teach this one the vibration of love. Teach them the vibration of love. This is not about the school, although this is certainly stimulating avenues of thought and consideration that are foreign to this awareness. But teaching this one, even at such a young age, to breathe, to keep mind still and quiet, to bring the vibration of love as they understand it to school with them. Teach them the feeling of their own innate goodness, their own central mystical self that is able to observe and be undistracted by those environmental perceptions. Teaching this one to be in a state of peace, to observe without judgment, without fearlessness. Communicate to them that in the awareness of themselves, they are free. As a feeling, they will not understand this language, but they will understand the feeling. You sit with them in love. Take their hands in your hands. Look them in the eye and allow only your feeling of love to be communicated to them as a vibration. And instruct them to bring this vibration. Stay in this vibration when you go to school. Bring this vibration. Keep your attention on this vibration of love that I offer to you. Offer this vibration of love. They will not understand the language at that biological age, but they will understand the meaning when you communicate. This is what you bring with you. Bring your love with you and remain in that vibration. Teach them through the being of that yourself. Simply their hands in your hands. You may communicate telepathically to them to hold this feeling within them, to keep that vibration that you are offering them, to keep it within them, to stay in it. They can choose to do this. You will see a significant difference when you communicate to them the vibrational nature of what keeps them whole and healthy. And a vibration of love is a profound healer. And in sitting in that vibration with them, they will come to know it. send your love only with them, that they would rest only in your love. Wow. Update from SJK on the Persian horse. Had surgery on the hoof yesterday after surviving a bout of colic. Now her tissue has to regrow and it will take a long time and attention to heal. I'm being told to tell you, going to the leg of that horse and directing healing, holding the image of that horse, that horse's leg whole and complete, envisioning and sensing out and projecting vibration of its happiness at being whole and perfect, projecting that energy at it, is going to begin to give them the energy. You can actually hold the vision for them as well. Because remember, a horse and animals are really attached to their biology. But yeah, okay, I get it. They're just saying very important. See and hold the vibration of their wholeness. I'm really happy to hear the horse survived the surgery and the healing will unfold beautifully. Remember, emotion is energy in motion. So the feeling of your joy will be a very powerful instrument in the act of their healing. Your joy at their healing, even while they are healing, will promote it. Well, thank you, Sonny, for that update. So grateful. Yeah, SJK, if you want, why don't you put some information on the site for if anyone wants to help out that horse, reach out to them. Question, why do I have too much phlegm in my throat at night? I feel I am drowning in it. You need to increase, and again, this is one of your guardian angels, you need to decrease processed sugars, any processed sugars, and increase your water intake, as the body does not have the internalized resources at this moment to eliminate these built up substances in the body. It is not simply in your throat, it is systemic. They're telling me that it's systemic, that water will assist in flushing this out. Removing processed sugars and water will really assist in flushing this out. And also another thing that I've been learning the last few weeks is getting your lymphatic system active. You know, if you've got a rebounder or you can go for a brisk walk, you want to get your lymphatic system working. But they're saying right immediately, you need to increase the amount of water you're drinking and decrease the use of processed sugars. You'll find, they're saying in 72 hours of increased water, yes, and the decreased use of sugars will begin a correction of this. In 72 hours, you'll see a noted difference. Wow, thank you for that, MT. I appreciate your question. Question from Danielle Oliver. For years, I've prayed for better memory, but my higher self recently told me it's a contradictory for me to want to live in the now while asking for a better memory. Could you help me understand this? Thank you, Danielle. That's a beautiful question. Buddha is saying that you understand in a place of being what you truly are, all things become available to you. All memory is available to you only from this moment. Only from this moment. In an expanded state of awareness, that is, a place where you are not distracted by one thought, one idea, one memory, one consideration, in a place of undistracted consciousness, you begin to gain a broader spectrum of awareness, even beyond the lifetime you're currently experiencing. If you could simply detach your awareness from being connected to a separate identity as your personality, you can incorporate far more realms of information and knowledge in your consciousness in an expanded state than in a contracted state. And what value is your past for you on this present moment? What value is it for you? Wow. Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, thank you. Question from Nancy. Do I need to stop listening to so much spiritual messages and go within more? It confuses me. I can only find peace in nature. As Master Buddha is saying, to be able to just sit in silence, to walk in silence, to observe in silence, just observe. Just observe. You're going to find that which you already are. The peace that you're seeking to get from the world exists as what you are as consciousness. The nature of what you are as awareness, not bound by one thought or another, one memory or another, one body or another. To be in a state of awareness liberates you from being stuck in any one dogma or any one belief. You are awareness, observing. And yes, you can observe sounds and smells and not be distracted by them. So you're seeking to find peace. You will always find peace in the silence between those things of perception in your mind, that you can observe a thought, but there is another thought, and there is space between the thoughts. And in the silence, you can observe one thought or another, but not be distracted by either. You will find your peace will come quite quickly. Pay attention to the space, the silence between all things, between all thoughts, between all considerations. Then you'll begin to feel peace. And you will still understand and be able to comprehend the things of this world, but you will do it from a place where you are not distracted by it. Time for 2 more questions today. Question from Holly for Master Buddha. Did the 13th century reformist monk named Nichiren offer a true assessment of the teaching of the Lotus Sutra? Thank you, William. Wow. His exact words are my most humble and sincere respect for your awareness. It is not in the answering of the question that you seek the answer, but in the recognition that you experience when asking the question, do you know the truth? Wow. Thank you so much for that question, Holly. There's great love between these two, by the way. Question from Navid. Can you ask Pan on if there, it's funny you mentioned Pan because Pan came in this morning earlier with me too. If there are any blocks in my energy field that disallows me to connect to others from the perspective of sensuality. If so, how do I remove this and what exactly should I do? It's funny, he's saying you need to dance and celebrate. You need to laugh and play and delight in it. Not delight in that which causes you to do so, but to delight in the doing of that, in the doing of dancing, in the being of it, in the action of expressing your nature through that body, where you gain the full awareness of your own sensuality without being, again, subjugated to it. This is the great pitfall that many of you struggle with. You enjoy the stimulation of your senses, but then you get lost in that stimulation, and now you found yourself stuck in stimulation and needing stimulation. Do not get lost in the function of things. Wow, thank you. Question from Vio. When I was young, I would say something and it would happen, and sometimes see things, but now it doesn't happen. Is there something I can do to bring that back? You're doing it right now, apparently. You're actually doing it right now. Let go of your attachment. Let go of your attachment to it having to happen as it did before. But in the very consideration of that which you're seeking, you bring it to life. In the very consideration of that which you are seeking, you are bringing it to life. But simply looking back on the memory of it will not allow you to see it unfolding before your very eyes, even right now, for it does. Everything occurring around you is in response to what you are asking. But if what you're asking is coming from a place of your own unconsciousness, then you will not be able to recognize what I just said to you. But from the place of where you were then, now, you would see the same thing is still true, that everything that is occurring around you is a product of your own creative process. It is not separate from you. Last question here from Carolyn. How can I determine who visits me? Last week I had a visit from a being on my left. You go to a party. This is what they've taught me anyway. You go to a party and there's a lot of people you've never met before. So you walk up to a person, you say, hi, my name is, do you know somebody here? You start to get to know them. What I've learned to do is learning to sit and feel the energy of that being and then to ask them questions. We're in the middle of our Mediumship 101 program where you will learn to do that. This week's going to focus on sensing the energies and the presence of non-physical energies around you. You know, we breathe air and we can feel temperature with our bodies, with our sensorial organisms, but the energies of non-physical beings is equally open to our perceptual apparatus. But yeah, you're in for a surprise, Carolyn. You're in for a really wonderful surprise. So in feeling their energy, ask them to come closer to you. Literally, ask them to come closer to you. Ask them to reveal a name or an image that represents who they are. You can ask them questions and just be aware of the response you get back from their energy. Through repeated exposure to them, you'll gain a knowledge. Just like getting to know somebody at a party you've never met before. It's exactly the same thing. You're just opening up your non-physical senses to perceive on a different frequency of energy than the sound wave or the sight wave or the physical wave. You're tuning into a different quality of energy, and you have to train your awareness to that level of perception. So that's really exciting. I'm really happy to hear that for you, that you're actually tuning into their energy being around you. Then become familiar with it. Ask them to come, to spend time with them. Ask questions. You'll be surprised at what can happen. Well, now that you guys have stayed here for this entire time, let's look at a couple things. So tomorrow, Saturday, March the 12th, I got a meditation called Meditation on Nothingness, and it's called A Freed Soul. It's going to be a meditation on nothingness. Some people might call it no-thingness, learning to literally contemplate nothing. And that produces a state of freedom. That's what I'm being told. Next Monday, March the 14th, I got Archangel Raphael. He's going to discuss the 3 simple steps to healing that anybody in the physical dimension can begin to learn. The 3 steps for healing. And that will be Monday, March the 14th. Yes, Wednesday, March the 16th, a prescription for freedom from Master Saint Germain. And on Friday, March the 18th, the love of your life is what it's being called next Friday, the love of your life. And I'm really excited about this, what we got coming our way. Also, I want to mention for those of you that are interested in overcoming your old past, your old emotions, your old feelings that plague you, I encourage you to sign up for our Mediumship 102 program, which starts April the 2nd of next month. From April the 2nd to April the 22nd, it's a Mediumship Masterclass 102, where you get an opportunity to transcend and rise above old emotional patterns, old emotional thoughts, to begin to learn and understand how to generate new ideas and experiences into your world. You can go to my website, williammichaelforbes.com, and sign up for that course, because you're going to literally be able to let go of years of old garbage from your consciousness, your body, and your mind. It's an amazing thing. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. And I think that does it for us now, folks. I want to wish you all much love, a wonderful day. My prayers to the horse and to all of you. Gosh, there's so much wonder available to us on this world today. And I wish that wonder finds you today in a new and wondrous way. That something magical happens for you today. That's my issuance, my extension personally to you that something magical and wonderful happens for you today. I want to wish you all much love. I'll see some of you at the meditation tomorrow. Have yourselves a wonderful and a joy-filled Friday. Bye for now. Oh, remember to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, share the heck out of this video with everybody you can. Much love, everybody. Bye for now.